So Snowfall is officially back with a double bill, and Teddy and Franklin are back in business together. But this is a business which Franklin knows the consequences of, and Rob was one of them. He knows too much, and at the end of the day, he was a liability, and Franklin isn't someone who's taking chances anymore. But as we started with Season 5, it seems that Franklin put all his past troubles with the issues that he had with gang wars, loyalty, and betrayal behind him. We saw he's on top of the game, where he's now got a private house near the beach, piloting his own plane, to even running a legit business in real estate with his new girlfriend Veronique. And we saw them planting the seeds of him building this empire over these past few seasons. But she's pregnant, and Franklin really does now have a reason to try and leave the game and create something solid for his family. But heavy is the head that wears the crown. So let's see how Franklin really does juggle both the drug game and the life that he's trying to build for him and his family. Because everything starts off with Franklin Saint's crew leveling up. His relationships are also all good compared to how things ended in Season 4. But in this game, things aren't as straightforward, and Franklin knows exactly how it is. But Season 5 starts with Snowfall kicking off in 1986 at the University of Maryland. And you've got a few ball players kicking it up in their room, but one line of coke leads to another, and I'm sure some of you may be familiar with the story, with Len Bias being the second overall draft pick from the Boston Celtics in 1986 NBA draft. But he also has a heart attack and dies at the age of 22, which tips off a wider investigation, and this is where we currently are in the timeline of Snowfall. But when it comes to Franklin Saint, it's always been business first, because he's thinking about the legal business, and he's also got issues because there's a lot of competition compared to before, and the prices of cocaine are going down, and he needs to stay competitive with his prices, otherwise his people, whether they're family or not, they'll go elsewhere. And Louis and Jerome even said Inglewood will go to the Colombians if Franklin can't cut his prices, which Grady eventually agreed to do in episode 2 if Franklin gave him a ride on his plane, which of course was a no-brainer. But of course, after episode 2 we know that Grady's no more and Teddy's back in, and he said the prices are going to remain the same. So let's see how this now affects Franklin and his business. But the prices was just one issue for Franklin in episode 1. He saw the TV report on the news that he saw a 24-year-old shooting, and he knew what he had to do to deal with the situation. And Rob's always been someone who's been around parties that involve drugs and women, as we all know from the very first episode of Snowfall. But this takes a turn because Thad kills Josh for taking a line of their coke, and the writing really was on the walls for him once he did. But the issues with Rob was, he was using and he was way too far gone. A bit like Wanda in the past seasons, but Wanda was someone who turned her life around, kind of. She was clean at least anyway. But she used to be in the position that Rob now finds himself in, and although it's good to see Wanda clean, we hear her telling Leon that it's not easy for her to get a new job after she flipped on her boss because she was shortchanged when she got paid at the end of episode 2. But with Rob, I think Franklin knew what he was going to do, even though he told him that they were going to kill Thad first and then he was going to send him to rehab to get cleaned up. So Franklin forced Rob to kill Thad, and what Franklin did next was ice cold, because Rob was someone who Franklin grew up with from high school. But I think he knew he was way too far gone, and he couldn't have any loose ends in his organization because he knew their names and he was using, and especially because now he's got Veronique and a baby on the way. Because she even told Franklin that everything's gonna change if they have this baby, and she won't support anything that doesn't support their family. And Franklin told her that this other life is ending soon, and he will do whatever it takes, and killing Rob shows he's living up to this promise. But Leon did say in episode 2, wasn't there any other way? But for those who watched my evolution of Franklin Saint's character analysis yesterday, will know how Franklin has gone from a kid learning the game from RV to now making grown man decisions, even though he's 24 years old. And this definitely was a grown man's decision. But Veronique told Franklin that Grady was in business with both their lives, and that's why he'd never have full control. And we even heard Teddy telling Franklin in episode 2 that it was never a good idea to get into real estate with Grady. Now with Leon, we were introduced to him back in the valley breaking one of his foot soldiers' foots because he was caught stealing. And we've also got Leon, Jerome and Aunt Louie who are back in business working with Franklin, so all the troubles at the end of season 4 seems to be behind them, for now anyway. We've also got Aunt Louie and Jerome having fun like they always do, but she does have an issue with a cop who she has in her back pocket who's doing her favors, but it does seem like this comes with a price. Even though she tells him she's in a snitch, he wants Louie to serve someone up because it's all about self-preservation for him, because he's watching all of his colleagues rave about raids and busts while he's serving up nothing. So he won't help Louie if she doesn't help him. So let's see what Louie's next move is. But let's finish episode 1 with Teddy disguising himself as Justin from the LADWP. But we all know the real reason why he was there, because this is the only thing he lives for. And at the end of season 4, he killed Irene because of how Irene and Alton made Reed Thompson's business public knowledge, and that's why she had to be taken off the board. But Alton told him that he needed to know his place in this world, which, as I said, this is the only thing that he lives for. And although they never showed Alton's death, They did mention this very briefly in a conversation where they did basically indirectly confirm Teddy's fate, and I really do think it could have only ended in one way for him. And in episode 2 we saw Franklin having a conversation with Sissy over the phone, but the line was so bad the conversation only lasted long enough for Franklin to give her the news about him and Veronique having a baby. But episode 2 kicks off 11 months ago from where episode 1 kicked off, so we get to learn more about where Teddy's been for a year and how exactly he weaseled his way back into working with the CIA again, and more importantly, Franklin's sane. But he tells his former boss that over the past year he's got his head straight, he's been traveling, resting, and with him watching his wife and son move on, this is the only thing that he's left with, and he's still a valuable asset for his country. But fast forward 5 months where we meet Harvey again for the first time this season, torturing someone, the same way we were introduced to him in season 1. And he's a guy who imports the guns, as we know from the past, and as later on showed us with Louis and Jerome. And Jerome and Louis are strong as always, even though Jerome never wanted to be in this game because of the consequences that come with it, and she's glad that he stuck by her. And with Franklin and Veronique, after all the lies, betrayal that he suffered with T in season 4, he definitely sees the value in Veronique and what she brings to him and his real estate business, as he repays her by giving some equity in their business. But he's also someone who wants to do right by his family with Jerome and Aunt Louie, helping them move their money from Panama into real estate. But this is where he also admitted that Rob's out because he couldn't be trusted, and it doesn't even surprise Jerome or Louis anymore. And he even explained to Leon why he had to kill him, because he could have said something at any time and he needed to keep his shit tight, especially now that Veronique's pregnant. But Franklin's trying to make sure that if he's got an exit strategy, so does his family. That includes Leon, but Leon's not interested in real estate and doing what Franklin does. He loves a simple life. But with Teddy, he knew that the flow of the weapons from Nicaragua has slowed down, and he questions what's happening in LA, because they were funding their war with the drugs that they were bringing in, which Franklin was selling. And it's also been over a year since the news that Irene and Alton broke about Reed Thompson, but things have gone quiet since then. So we come back to the moment from episode 1 where he came to Grady's, knowing that he's the new contact, and to scope how bad the situation is, and he reported back that Grady's a mess, and he's been skimming millions from the product that they've been selling. But not only that, he's in business with Franklin when it comes to his real estate business, and he's also in relationship with one of his people. But can Teddy work with Franklin? That was the question, given their history, and also because of what he did to his father in Cuba. And we saw Teddy dance around the real truth, so their relationship really is going to take a turn when Franklin finds out the real truth. But even Gus said, after everything, he still wants back in, but he's happy to work with Teddy because all he wants to do is provide for his family. And I'm sure Teddy is the guy we all want to see working with Franklin, not Grady. And Grady was someone who realized who Teddy was when he was sitting across the table. But Teddy told him that his time was over, and he actually gave him a chance to leave by telling him that the money that he stole, he can keep, and he can take it with him. But the minute Grady turned shit personal, telling him that his wife probably left him and he doesn't speak to his kids, and he was kicked around as a kid, and also how he knows about a lot about this operation and he could talk, Teddy knew what had to be done. And Teddy is someone who said he doesn't take shit personal. He told him it's not because you insulted me, it's because he's bad at his job. And Teddy's someone who's all about business. And he also wanted to make his country proud. And as I mentioned before, this is all he had left, and he wasn't going to let Grady stand in his way. So we all saw how ruthless and cold Franklin Saint was in episode 1. But we saw how crazy Teddy is as well, and how far he's willing to go to get back the position that he believes to be his. But now Grady was out of the way, Teddy's path was clear, even though Franklin liked working with him on 2 fronts, drugs and real estate. And Teddy was here telling him that Grady was nobody's friend, and it was only a matter of time before he got everyone in trouble. And I do agree with him, business should be business, and now things are going to go back to how they used to be, which Franklin doesn't have a problem with, because they got shit done before, so they'll get it done again. But he's got his head on a constant swivel with his gun in his cigar box, and what could change their working relationship is when Franklin finds out the truth about Alton, and also because Teddy doesn't agree to cut the prices that Grady agreed to, and that's going to be a problem as we move forward. And also going forward, Reed is gone, and it is just Teddy from now on. So that was episodes 1 and 2 of Snowfall, a very good start to the season, which no doubt will be a very good season ahead, as it always is with Snowfall and their writing. So drop all your thoughts down below on the first 2 episodes of Snowfall Season 5. And of course, if you're new to the channel and you haven't done so already, then remember to smash the subscribe button if you want to see everything Snowfall and Power Universe related. But as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.